Expys, the reoccurring characters who make an appearance in nearly every single Hoyo game, further enforcing that every game shares the same universe or Hoyoverse. One of my favorite aspects of the game and something that gave rise to my channel in the first place. Kinda funny that this all started with me saying May a bunch of times, right? Anyway, with this next patch soon to release and the next chapter of our adventure into this very much foreign land soon to continue, we received new info that needs to be dissected. Namely, Castorice. We have received her drip marketing recently and the community has exploded with memes and concerns. A lot of which are surrounding power creep, but something has caught my eye and is a different kind of power creep. You see, Castoris is a quantum remembrance type character which has placed her in direct competition with Seele. Not that Seele has been competition for anyone recently, but what if I told you that this goes deeper than her place in the meta? Because the story of Castoris and what is foreshadowed to be her future is something Honkai Impact 3rd players are all too familiar with in a way that's kind of a slap in the face. You've seen the memes of Castoris and Seele going head to head, but what if I told you that this is more than quantum DPS versus quantum DPS? This is a duel for the very essence of the character. And I won't beat around the bush here, I've heard the theory that Seele is the other half of Castoris, and while that may seem ridiculous at first, there might actually be some merit to it. Because this is Castoris is Seele? Okay, so before we talk about Castoris and Seele, we gotta talk about, well, Seele. Because she is where this all starts, and understanding her is very important to this whole theory. First off, Seele has a very heavily butterfly-centered aesthetic. She is even presented as a butterfly at times. She is also either blue or red because her other theme is duality. You see, Seele is a very gentle-natured girl who is the very aspect of innocence embodied. Innocence that also doubled as weakness, and it was this weakness that left her vulnerable in the cruel world of Honkai Impact 3rd. But Seele was very unique in a very special way. She ended up naturally developing a stigmata that granted her special abilities that also came with its own personality. That's the duality aspect. And this alter ego was a menace. Instead of forgiving and gentle, this person was cruel and sadistic, and we refer to her as Veliona. A non-canon name, but it's less confusing this way, trust me. Anyway, as time went on, she came to trust this other self that would take control and protect her, and the two worked as a duo. Plot happens, both sides of Seele develop and mature, Veliona develops her own likes and dislikes and full-on personality. Finally, at the very end, Seele becomes the Hersher of Rebirth and is able to give Veliona control of her body, recreating an identical one for herself, and the two now live as twins sharing the same name. See the aspect of butterfly, transformation, development, duality, all that good stuff, right? That is Seele in a nutshell. But how does this compare to these two quantum characters? Well, this is the fun part, because Honkai Impact 3rd Seele is always quantum. Even Veliona is quantum, not including the Hersher form, of course. So that matches up nicely. Obviously, both are scythe users, that matches up too, but the Seele we know from Star Rail is really brash and rough and even sharpens her scythe for fun. And Castoris, on the other hand, is gentle and compassionate and has these cutesy little hobbies like drying out flowers so she can wear them despite her whole death touch thing. So hold on a second. That would make Seele Veliona and Castoris Seele. Castoris is more Seele than Seele? Okay, wait a second. Let's look into this further. Even the outfit Seele wears is always white, and Veliona is always wearing black. So how does this compare? Well, it just so happens that Star Rail Seele wears red, blue, and black with some white mixed in there. And Castoris wears all white, and wait a minute, purple. The combination of red and blue? What's going on here? Okay, so Seele has her whole butterfly thing, disappear among the sea of butterflies and all that. That checks out. Next thing you're gonna tell me is that Castoris has a butterfly aesthetic. What is this? Butterflies in her splash art, blue and purple ones at that. Okay, this is getting weird. This can't be on purpose. We got Veliona before Seele. And even Castorice being the future demigod of death checks out with the Hersher of death Seele became, because she was not only the Hersher of rebirth, she was a Hersher of rebirth and death. Again, duality thing. How is Seele the other side of Castorice? She was raised in Belobog on a completely different planet. Well, we don't know anything about Seele's past, no parental history, no lineage, and no last name. And according to what I've analyzed about her character, Seele doesn't belong on Eurilo 6 at all. Let me explain. Okay. So I've said before that Seele is a paradox of a character. She pulls off feats that other characters couldn't dream of. She has showcased on multiple occasions the ability to move at speed so fast that she is barely visible in drastically slowed slow motion. She can also turn invisible and warp her mass into a quantum tornado-like blob of energy thing that she does here. She even has such a mastery over her speed that she is strong enough to cut bullets out of the air, proving that her reaction time and precision matches her speed. What she is shouldn't exist in Belobog. Some say that these abilities are tied to her scythe, which was a gift from Sampo, who also just happens to look eerily similar to her. And Acheron. Anyway, out of all the sources I've checked and read, only the Keeping Up with Star Rail mentions her speed, where Bronya says,
I will say, she runs pretty fast for an underworlder.
Which, unless Bronya is wrong, then yes, she is just that fast on her feet. I'm sure that her scythe can propel her forward and add to her acceleration, but she clearly doesn't need it since, well, she's not using it here. See, her finger isn't on the trigger? In her ultimate, you can see that her scythe has a trigger on it. She pulls it, aims it behind herself, and the recoil fires her forward. Something that she isn't doing here. She just vanishes. That is her innate ability that allows her to do that. When I say that Seele is quite possibly faster than Fei Xiao, I'm not joking. A bullet on average moves around 2,000 miles per hour. That's 3,219 kilometers per hour. And Seele is moving so fast that the bullet Bronya fires from a sniper rifle, mind you, is sitting still by comparison. And Seele is still so incredibly fast that she is barely visible. If I were to lowball Seele's speed, she is still going over double the speed of sound. This is an Emanator level feat, which makes sense because Acheron's the only other character to have after images. What I mean to say is this: she does not belong in Belobog. So what if she's from somewhere else? We don't know when Castorice lost her other half. It could have been during her childhood, resulting in a small girl being left on a completely different planet with no parents, no last name, and no lineage, with abilities that don't match anyone else's on the planet, and just so happens to use a scythe as a weapon of choice. The same weapon her other half uses from across the galaxy, both embodying the same person. Even the fact that Castorice is a remembrance type character matches Seele, because in her Hersher of rebirth form, she summons things to aid her in battle, kind of like remembrance characters summon a memo sprite. And if you look at it that way, Castorice will not become the demigod of death, but of rebirth. This is why her death touch ability is either under control or disappears entirely, because we the player end up touching her twice. And let's be honest, we aren't dying. All of this is very much possible, but first, she needs her other half, because the two are split up, and since things seem to be moving in reverse, instead of splitting apart in the end, the two need to reunite. Castorice is Seele? This is a crazy off-the-wall theory that you guys brought up in the comment section, so I thought it would be fun to talk about and see how convincing I can at least try to make it. Still though, the similarities are shocking at the very least. If Seele and Castorice end up having nothing to do with each other, I would have a bit of a problem with that, because they are in essence the very same character. I mean, how do you name a character Seele then have another character be more Seele than Seele? It's a slap in the face. That would be like naming a character after Raiden Mei then making her bad at cooking. What, you think I can't slander A in a Honkai Star Rail video? Nah, that walking failure is never safe. Anyway, that would be a type of narrative power creep. How come Castorice gets more history and character development than the character who bears the name of the character she was modeled after? Maybe it's just my way of coping with Seele being a mess of a character that the writers simply have no clue what to do with, so they just gave up and made a new one. I'd hate that. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.